The Galactic Federation had watched the solar system for a long time. To them, Earth was just a small blue dot in a quiet part of the galaxy. The Federation was made of many alien races. They were old, advanced, and very proud. They had traveled the stars for thousands of years. They had huge ships and powerful weapons. They thought they knew everything about war and peace. They thought they knew everything about life. But they did not know about humanity. They looked at the humans and saw a weak people. They saw people who fought with each other. They saw people who used simple machines. The Federation laughed at Earth. They called it a primitive planet. One day, the Federation decided to take the Earth. They did not want to talk. They did not want to trade. They just wanted to take the water and the minerals. They sent a fleet of ships. These ships were big and black. They blocked out the sun. The ships belonged to a race called the Xyloph. The Xyloph were tall insects. They had hard shells and many arms. They were cruel. They did not care about the people living on the planet. To them, the humans were like ants. You do not talk to ants. You just step on them. The Xyloph ships parked in the sky above the biggest cities on Earth. The people on the ground were scared. They looked up at the dark sky. They did not know what was going to happen. The military tried to contact the ships. They sent radio messages. They asked, "Who are you? What do you want?" But there was no answer. The silence was heavy. It felt like the air was hard to breathe. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed from the sky. It came from the Xyloph ships. It spoke in all languages. It said, "People of Earth, surrender now. We are the Xyloph. We own this galaxy now. Your planet belongs to us. If you fight, you will die. We are too strong for you. Lay down your weapons and come out of your houses. We will be kind if you obey." The Xyloph commander sat in his chair on the main ship. His name was Krell. He looked down at a screen. He saw the city below. He waited for the humans to come out. He waited for them to cry and beg. In his past, other planets had surrendered quickly. They were afraid of the lasers and the big ships. But Earth was quiet. The streets were empty. The humans hid in their homes and bunkers. Krell was confused. Why do they not surrender? He asked his second in command. They must know that they cannot win. Their weapons are sticks and stones compared to ours. They are stupid, the second in command said. They do not understand power. We must show them. High above the Earth, hidden among the debris of old satellites, was a different ship. It was a human ship. It was small and gray. It did not look like much. But inside, it was busy. This was the hidden defense station. It was the last hope for the planet. Inside the station, two men stood in front of a large window. They watched the Xyloph ships. The first man was Ryan. Ryan was a soldier. He was tall and strong. He had a scar on his face. He spent his whole life training for a fight. He never ran away. The second man was Ji-hoon. He was younger. He wore glasses. He was very smart. He was a tactical analyst. He saw things that other people missed. Ryan looked at the screen where the Xyloph commander had spoken. "They think we are weak," Ryan said. His voice was low and angry. "They think they can just walk in and take our home." Ji-hoon typed on a keyboard very fast. "They have scanned our planet," Ji-hoon said. "They see our old tanks and our planes. They do not see our new weapons. They think we are sleeping. But we are not sleeping," Ryan. We are waiting. Ryan nodded. Good. I am tired of waiting. In a control room deep underground, a woman named Emily was watching a radar screen. Emily was a leader of the ground forces. She was tough. She had short hair and a sharp voice. She had soldiers all over the city. They were hiding in buildings, in sewers, and in tunnels. She had told them, "Do not shoot until I say so." Emily looked at her second in command, a man named Thomas. "Are the teams ready?" she asked. "Yes," Thomas said. "They are in position. But we are outnumbered. They have thousands of soldiers in those big drop ships. If we miss, they will destroy the city." "We will not miss," Emily said. "We only have one chance. We have to make it hurt." Up in the sky, the Xylov commander Krell lost his patience. "They ignore me," he said. "Very well. If they will not surrender, we will crush them. Send the ground troops. Destroy their buildings. Show them what happens when you ignore the Federation." The Xylov ships opened their bellies. Hundreds of smaller ships flew down. They were fast and scary. They headed toward the city where Emily was waiting. The people in the city ran into the subways. They were scared. But they did not see soldiers crying. They saw soldiers with angry faces. They saw men and women picking up their rifles. The alien ships landed in the main parks and wide streets. The ramps opened. The Xylov soldiers marched out. They were tall and green. They held shiny silver guns. They made a loud clicking sound. They walked into the center of the city. They expected to see a crowd of scared humans. Instead, they saw an empty street. It was too quiet. Back on the hidden space station, Ryan touched his earpiece. "Emily," he said. "Are you seeing this?" "I see them," Emily's voice came through the radio. "They are right in the middle of the city. They are standing in the kill zone." Ryan looked at Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon gave a thumbs up. All the systems were green. "Ryan," Emily said. "Give the order." Ryan took a deep breath. He looked at the alien ships on the screen. He thought about his home. He thought about the people hiding in the subways. He thought about the arrogance of the Xylov. "Execute Strike Plan Alpha," Ryan said calmly. On the ground, Emily spoke into her radio. Now, at that exact moment, the quiet city exploded with noise. It was not the sound of a surrender. It was the sound of war. From the windows of the tall buildings, hundreds of rockets flew out. They were not guided by computers. They were aimed by angry human eyes. The rockets hit the Xylov soldiers in the park. Fire and smoke filled the air. The alien soldiers fell. They screamed in surprise. They had shields, but the humans used too many explosives. The shields broke under the heavy fire. In the sewers, traps exploded. The ground shook. Holes opened up under the alien tanks. High above, the hidden station fired its main guns. These were not normal guns. They were rail guns. They shot metal slugs so fast that they burned the air. The slugs hit the Xylov ships that were floating in the sky. The ships had strong shields, but the slugs were heavy and fast. They punched through the alien metal like a knife through butter. 3 Xylov ships burst into flames and fell to the ground. Commander Krell stood up in shock. "What is happening?" he yelled. "Where is the fire coming from? I do not see them. They are everywhere." His second in command shouted. "Our sensors cannot lock on. They are using jamming signals." On the ground, the Xylov soldiers tried to run back to their ships. But it was too late. The humans did not let them retreat. Emily's soldiers moved in. They used machine guns and grenades. They fought with a fury that the Xylov had never seen before. The aliens fought back, shooting their lasers, but the humans did not stop. Even when a soldier fell, another one picked up his gun and kept shooting. Ryan watched from the space station. "Target their fuel lines," he told Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon typed a command. "Missiles away." Small missiles flew from the station. They ducked and weaved through the debris. They hit the engines of the large Xylov motherships. Blue fire erupted from the engines. The big ships began to list. They could not fly properly. They were sitting ducks in the sky. The battle lasted for 20 minutes. Then, the remaining Xylov ships panicked. They had never fought a war like this. They had fought from a distance, safely in space. They had never been hit this hard. They had never faced an enemy that seemed to enjoy the fight. "Retreat!" Krell screamed. "Get us out of here! Activate emergency jump!" The Xylov ships turned around and flew away as fast as they could. They left their ground troops behind. Those soldiers were captured or destroyed. The sky cleared. The smoke drifted over the city, but the buildings were still standing. The humans had won the first round. Ryan leaned back in his chair. He let out a long breath. He smiled. It was a cold smile. "They are leaving," Ji-hoon said. "We did it." "We did," Ryan said. "But they will be back. And next time, they will be angry." On the ground, Emily stood amidst the wreckage of an alien tank. She looked up at the sky. She watched the enemy ships run away. She knew Ryan was right. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. They thought Earth would be an easy meal. But they had bitten off more than they could chew. The lesson had started, and it came fast. The humans were not afraid. They were ready. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Xylov armada had retreated, but the silence that followed was heavy and dangerous. The Galactic Federation was not used to losing. They were arrogant, and they did not like to be embarrassed. The news of the defeat at Earth spread quickly through the stars. The leaders of the Federation were angry. They could not believe that a primitive race with simple weapons had hurt their mighty fleet. They decided that the Xylov had been too soft. They decided to send a different enemy. They sent the Vorg. The Vorg were a race of giant, furry creatures. They looked like bears, but they stood on two legs and were much bigger. They were incredibly strong. Their skin was thick enough to stop bullets, and their muscles could crush metal. The Federation sent the Vorg to do one thing: crush the human spirit. They wanted to scare the humans into surrender. The Vorg did not use complex tactics. They just used brute force. They landed in the ruined parts of the city with loud roars and heavy footsteps. They smashed buildings and cars. They wanted the humans to see them and feel fear. But the humans did not react the way the aliens expected. In the past, when the Vorg attacked other planets, the aliens would run away and hide in the forests. The humans did not run. They disappeared into the shadows. They melted into the city. The city was broken, full of rubble and tall, hollow buildings. To the Vorg, this looked like a wasteland. But to the humans, it was a fortress. It was a hunting ground. In the basement of an old parking garage, Daniel was working. He was a mechanic and an engineer. Before the war, he fixed cars and trucks. Now, he fixed alien technology. He had a small team of scavengers. They brought him pieces of the broken Xylof ships and weapons that had fallen from the sky. Daniel studied these pieces. He took them apart. He learned how they worked. He was not a soldier. He did not like guns. But he understood machines. He knew that the Vorg had powerful shields that stopped human bullets. He knew that human rockets were not strong enough to break their thick skin. He had to find a new way to hurt them. Their shields work on energy, Daniel said to himself. He was holding a small blue box from a Xylof soldier. It pulsed with light. They block heat and metal. But can they block a surge of electricity? He looked up from his workbench. A young woman named Sumi was walking toward him. Sumi was small and fast. She had been a delivery driver before the war, so she knew every street, alley, and shortcut in the city. She was in charge of logistics. She moved food, ammo, and supplies to the soldiers without the aliens seeing her. The Vorg are moving into the downtown area, Sumi said. She looked tired, but her eyes were bright. They are looking for our headquarters. They are smashing everything. If they find us, they will kill us all. Daniel wiped grease from his hands. Let them come, he said. I am ready. I need you to do something dangerous. Sumi smiled. I am always ready to do something dangerous. What do you need? I need you to rig the city's power grid, Daniel said. He pointed to a map of the city on the wall. The Vorg have set up a camp in the main plaza. They are charging their equipment. I want you to connect the main power line directly to the old subway tunnels beneath them. The voltage will be too high, Sumi said. It will destroy the tunnel. It might start a fire. Exactly, Daniel said. It won't just be a fire. It will be an electromagnetic pulse. It will be like a giant lightning bolt right under their feet. It will fry their shields. It will knock out their comms. For a few seconds, they will be just big, unprotected targets. Sumi nodded. I can do it. But you need to be ready to strike when the shields go down. I have snipers waiting, Daniel said. We just need to give them the signal. Above the city, the Vorg commander, a massive beast named Gorgon, stood on top of a tank. He laughed as his soldiers threw cars around. Where are the humans? He roared. Why do they not fight? Are they dead? Are they hiding like rats? He did not know that the rats were actually wolves, and they were watching him from every window. Far away, on a rooftop, Emily was watching the plaza through binoculars. She was the leader of the ground forces. She was cold and patient. She had snipers positioned on 3 different tall buildings. She had soldiers with rocket launchers hiding in the subway entrances. She spoke into her radio. Daniel, is the trap set? Ready, Daniel's voice came through the earpiece. Sumi, are you in position? I am at the junction box, Sumi whispered. My hand is on the switch. Emily looked at the Vorg camp. They were celebrating. They thought they had won. They thought the humans were too scared to come out. Emily smiled grimly. Do it, she said. In the basement of the parking garage, Daniel typed a command into his computer. He had modified the city's power grid to create a massive surge. Simultaneously, underground, Sumi flipped a heavy metal switch. There was a hum, a low vibration that shook the ground. The Vorg stopped laughing. They looked around in confusion. Suddenly, the manhole covers in the plaza exploded into the air. Blue arcs of electricity shot up from the ground. It was a blinding light. The energy surge swept through the Vorg camp. The Vorg shields, which glowed with a soft white light, flickered and died. The technology inside their armor short-circuited. Sparks flew. The Vorg howled in surprise and pain. They were not hurt badly by the shock, but they were blind. Their night vision lenses were broken. Their communication radios were dead. They were stumbling around in the smoke. "Now," Emily said into her radio. The silence of the shattered city was broken by the crack of rifles. From the rooftops, the human snipers fired. They aimed for the gaps in the armor, the joints where the metal plates met. Without their shields, the Vorg were vulnerable. The huge monsters fell one by one. The Vorg tried to run back to their tanks, but the tanks were disabled too. Daniel's surge had fried their engines. Then, the rocket launchers spoke. Whoosh! Whoosh! The rockets flew into the plaza and exploded. The explosions tore through the alien lines. The Vorg were strong, but they were not invincible. They panicked. They were used to enemies who ran away. They did not know how to fight an enemy that they could not see and could not predict. Gorgon, the Vorg commander, roared in anger. He pulled out his huge axe and charged toward one of the buildings where the fire was coming from. He was fast, but he was not paying attention. He ran right into a trap that Sumi had set earlier. A tripwire triggered, and a heavy steel beam swung down from a building. It hit Gorgon and knocked him to the ground. Before he could get up, a sniper bullet ended his attack. The battle did not last long. The Vorg, without their leader and without their technology, broke formation. They ran out of the city. They fled into the wilderness, leaving their broken equipment behind. In the parking garage, Daniel slumped in his chair. He was exhausted. Sumi came in through the back door. She was covered in dust and dirt, but she was smiling. "We did it," Sumi said. "They are running away." "It wasn't just us," Daniel said. "It was everyone. We used their strength against them. They relied on their tech too much. We relied on being smart." The victory in the city was important, but it was not just about killing the Vorg. It was about sending a message. The Federation was watching. They saw the recordings from the Vorg helmets. They saw how the humans used the city's power grid as a weapon. They saw how the humans used traps and ambushes. The alien leaders were confused. Their logic computers could not understand this strategy. It did not make sense to them to sacrifice a city to win a battle. It did not make sense to use primitive tools like wires and switches to destroy advanced armor. They realized that humanity was not just strong, humanity was unpredictable. They were creative. They were dangerous because they did not follow the rules of galactic war. Ryan and Ji-hoon watched the report from the safety of the hidden station. They saw the Vorg retreating on the screens. "They are sending stronger enemies," Ryan said. "First the Xylov, then the Vorg. They are testing us." "They are learning the wrong lesson," Ji-hoon replied. "They think if they send stronger soldiers, they will win. But they don't understand, it doesn't matter how big the soldier is. We will find a way to bring them down. We are humans. We adapt. We survive." The galaxy was beginning to whisper. The name Earth was no longer a joke. It was a warning. The Federation realized that conquering this planet would not be a parade. It would be a nightmare. The humans had turned their ruined cities into death traps. They had turned their simple machines into weapons of war. The lesson had come fast, and the Federation was starting to get scared. They had woken up the sleeping giant, and the giant was angry. The war on the ground had gone well for humanity. The aliens had been pushed back, but the leaders of the Galactic Federation were not patient. They did not like to lose time, and they did not like to lose soldiers. The anger in the Federation Council grew every day. They could not understand how a primitive species was defeating their best troops. Finally, the Council made a decision. They stopped trying to invade the land. They decided to destroy it. A new fleet was sent to the solar system. This fleet was bigger than the first one. It did not carry soldiers. It carried huge weapons. The plan was simple and cruel. They would park their ships in orbit and fire their beams. They would burn the cities, boil the oceans, and turn Earth into a dead rock. They called this glassing. It was a punishment for resisting. The Federation ships arrived and formed a tight circle around the planet. They put up a massive energy shield. The shield was like a bubble. Nothing could go in, and nothing could go out. They trapped the humans on the surface so they could watch their end. The countdown began. The Federation aimed their giant laser cannons at the major cities. They prepared to fire. In the hidden asteroid belt, far from Earth, a small group of humans was watching. They were not on the planet. They were on a ship called the Archer. The Archer was not a battleship. It was a prototype. It was designed for stealth, not for fighting. It was painted black, and its engines were very quiet. It was the only human ship that had escaped the blockade. The captain of the Archer was David. He was a calm man. He did not panic easily. He sat in the pilot's chair and watched the enemy fleet on the screen. There were hundreds of alien ships, glowing with blue light. Next to him sat Na. She was the navigation officer. She was young and very smart. She could calculate jumps in space faster than a computer. "They are going to fire in 10 minutes, Na said softly. Her hands shook a little. "They are targeting New York, Tokyo, and London. Billions of people will die." David gripped the controls. "We have to break that shield," he said. "If we can break the shield, the ground forces can shoot the ships with their nuclear missiles. But the shield is too strong for our weapons. We cannot fight them head-on," Na said. "We have 10 ships. They have 1,000. We will be destroyed in a second." David looked at the map of the debris field. The Xylov and Vorg fleets had left a lot of junk behind. There were broken pieces of metal, old satellites, and dead ships floating in space. It was a mess. "We don't need to be stronger," David said. "We need to be smarter. We need to use the debris." The Archer was not alone. It was leading a small group of ghost ships. These were old mining ships and transport shuttles that the humans had fitted with stolen engines. They looked like junk. They did not have shields. They did not have big guns. They only had one weapon each, a massive railgun. "Listen to me," David said over the radio to all the other ships. "We are going to play a trick. The Federation is using energy shields. Their shields stop lasers and plasma. But their shields have a weakness. They are calibrated to stop fast-moving energy particles. They are not calibrated to stop big, heavy, solid objects. So, we shoot them with rocks," a pilot named Kevin asked. "Exactly," David said. "We are going to turn the debris field into a shotgun." The plan was dangerous. David ordered the fleet to turn off their engines and drift. They moved silently through the dark space. They used the wreckage of the alien ships as cover. They looked like pieces of floating garbage. The Federation sensors scanned the area, but they ignored the debris. They were looking for energy signatures. The human ships had no energy signature. They were invisible ghosts. NA plotted a course. It was a winding path through the wreckage. One wrong move and they would crash into a piece of metal and explode. "I am taking us in," she said. "Hold on." The Archer drifted closer and closer to the blockade. The alien ships were huge. They were so close that David could see the lights on their hulls. He could see the gunners walking on the decks. The Federation ships were all facing the planet, ready to shoot down. They did not think about what was behind them. "We are in range," NA whispered. "We have a clear shot at their flagship's engine exhaust." David took a deep breath. He knew that once they fired, they would give away their position. They would have seconds to live. But if they succeeded, they would save the world. "Target locked," David said. "Fire all railguns." At that moment, 10 small ships fired at once. They did not fire lasers. They fired solid metal slugs. The slugs were the size of cars. They moved at incredible speed. Because the railguns used magnets to shoot, there was no flash, no explosion, and no sound in the vacuum of space. The slugs were silent and invisible. The slugs hit the rear of the Federation flagship. The flagship was the biggest ship in the fleet. It had the strongest shields. But the shields were facing the planet to block any attack from the ground. They were not expecting an attack from behind. The metal slugs tore through the back of the ship like a knife through butter. They smashed the engines, they ripped open the fuel tanks. A massive explosion erupted inside the flagship. It was a silent bloom of fire and metal. The shock wave hit the shield generator. The generator overloaded. The massive blue bubble that protected the fleet flickered and vanished. "Now!" David yelled into the radio. "Ground command. The shield is down. Fire." On Earth, in the secret bunkers, Ryan and Ji-hoon were waiting. They watched the satellite feed. When the shield vanished, Ryan slammed his fist on the table. "Launch the nukes!" Ryan shouted. "Everything we have." From silos in the mountains and from submarines deep in the ocean, hundreds of nuclear missiles rose into the sky. They had been saved for this moment. The aliens had thought the humans had no way to hit space. They were wrong. The missiles flew out of the atmosphere. They spotted the enemy fleet. The alien ships tried to turn their shields back on. They tried to shoot the missiles down. But there were too many missiles. The Archer and the Ghost ships were still there, shooting their railguns, confusing the enemy sensors. The missiles hit the Federation fleet. It was a slaughter. Without their shields, the alien ships were fragile. Nuclear explosions lit up the dark side of Earth. It looked like a string of pearls of fire. One by one, the enemy ships were destroyed. The shock waves pushed the wreckage away. The Archer shook violently as a piece of a destroyed ship flew past them. "We have to get out of here!" Na screamed. "The explosion is coming our way." "Hold on!" David yelled. He turned the ship sharply. He pushed the engines to full power. The Archer raced away from the battle. Behind them, the Federation fleet was burning. The once proud blockade was now a cloud of dust and fire. David watched the destruction on the screen. He felt relief, but also sadness. They had killed thousands of aliens. But they had saved billions of humans. "Did we do it?" Kevin asked over the radio. "We did it," David said. "The blockade is broken." The galaxy watched in horror. The Federation, the greatest power in the stars, had been defeated by a small group of drifters and a few clever shots. The humans had not fought the way aliens fought. They had not stood in a line and exchanged fire. They had used the environment. They had used the debris. They had attacked from the shadows. On Earth, Ryan looked at Ji-hoon. They underestimated us again, Ryan said. They thought space was a battlefield for big ships, Ji-hoon replied. They forgot that space is dark. And there are things in the dark that bite. The Archer and the remaining ghost ships flew toward the moon. They were damaged, but they were alive. The lesson had come fast again. The Federation now knew that humans could fight on the ground, and they could fight in the void. There was no safe place for the aliens anymore. The humans were coming, and the galaxy was not ready for them. The destruction of the blockade fleet changed the war, but it did not end it. The Galactic Federation was vast and old. They had many resources. However, the defeat in space shook the foundation of their society. The aliens of the Federation valued safety and logic. They believed in a predictable universe where the strong ruled and the weak served. The humans had broken this rule. They had defeated a stronger enemy using tricks and aggression. This confused the alien leaders. They did not know how to react. Deep in the heart of the Federation, on a station far from Earth, the Council met. They watched the videos of the battle. They saw the human ships hiding in the trash. They saw the nuclear explosions. Fear began to spread. It was not a fear of weapons, but a fear of the unknown. They realized that humans did not think like them. Humans acted on emotion, instinct, and a desperate desire to survive. The Council realized that they could not calculate human behavior. To a society built on logic, this was terrifying. On Earth, the mood was different. The people were tired, but they were also proud. They had survived the impossible. But the leaders knew that they could not keep fighting a war of attrition. The Federation had infinite soldiers. Humans only had what was left on their planet. They needed to change the alien mind without firing another shot. In a secure bunker, a man named Michael was working. Michael was not a soldier like Ryan. He was not an engineer like Daniel. He was a diplomat. Before the war, he had tried to talk to the Federation. He had tried to make peace. They had ignored him. Now, he was trying a different approach. He was using his understanding of alien culture to wage a new kind of war, a psychological war. Michael sat in front of a communication array. He had spent the last few days analyzing the data logs that Ryan and Ji-hoon had stolen from the alien ships. He found something interesting. The Federation soldiers were not brave. They relied on their technology to keep them safe. When their shields failed, they panicked. They were terrified of death. Humans, on the other hand, had learned to accept death. This difference was the key. Ryan, Michael said over the radio. I have a plan. But I need you to stop shooting for a moment. Ryan was in the field, cleaning his rifle. I am listening, he said. We need to send them a message, Michael said. Not a demand for surrender. A lesson. Michael began to work. He did not send a text or a voice message. He sent a data package. It was a collection of videos and statistics. He hacked into the Federation's communication network. It was hard to do, but an array from the space station had given him the codes. The package arrived on the personal screens of every Federation commander. It bypassed their security protocols. It flashed on their screens automatically. The video started. It showed the battle in the city against the Vorg. It showed the humans with simple weapons fighting giant monsters. It showed soldiers stepping over their dead friends to keep shooting. It showed medics running into fire to save the wounded. Then, the video cut to the space battle. It showed the tiny archer drifting through debris, ready to die for a chance to strike back. There was no sound, just text. The text was simple. It said, "We do not fight because we want to. We fight because we are here. You have the ships. You have the lasers. But we have the will to die for what is ours. How many of you are willing to die to take this rock?" Michael watched the monitors. He could see the Federation network activity. Millions of aliens were watching the video. They were seeing the humans not as pests, but as something else. They saw a species that did not fear pain. They saw a species that would never stop fighting, even if they lost everything. The Federation commanders were stunned. They called emergency meetings. They argued. "They are mad," one alien leader said. "They are illogical. We cannot defeat an enemy that does not value its own life. If we invade," another said, "they will destroy their own planet just to hurt us. They will turn Earth into a grave for our soldiers." This was the fear that Michael wanted to plant. He knew the Federation was a business. They fought for profit and resources. They fought because it was easy. If Michael could make the war too expensive both in money and in fear, they would leave. In the city, the shooting stopped. The aliens on the ground were confused. They waited for orders. They watched the video. They looked at the human lines. The humans were not cheering. They were just watching. They were staring at the aliens with cold eyes. This silence was scarier than the bombs. Ryan stood up on a ridge where the aliens could see him. He did not raise his gun. He just stood there. He adjusted his helmet. He looked at the alien positions. He wanted them to see him. He wanted them to know that he was not afraid. The message was clear: we are still here. We are not going anywhere. Back in the bunker, Michael prepared a second transmission. This one was directed at the Galactic Council itself. He used their own logic against them. "Your calculations were wrong," Michael typed. "You thought we were weak. You thought we would submit. You made a mistake. You can destroy us, yes. You can burn the Earth. But we will hurt you before we fall. We will hurt you so much that other species will rise up against you. Your empire is built on fear. But we are the things that live in the dark. We are the nightmare you cannot wake up from." Michael pressed send. The data traveled across the galaxy in an instant. On the council station, the leaders sat in silence. They looked at the statistics Michael had sent. They saw the casualty rates. The Federation was losing 10 ships for every human victory. They saw the cost of ammunition. They saw the drop in morale among their own troops. The logic was clear. The war was no longer profitable. The war was a trap. One of the oldest members of the council spoke. His name was Dar. "We have encountered many species," Dar said slowly. "But never one like this. They are not fighting for territory. They are fighting for existence. You cannot reason with that." "What do we do?" a general asked. "Do we glass the planet?" "We tried," Dar said. "And they destroyed our blockade. If we send more ships, they will destroy them too. We cannot occupy a world where every citizen is a soldier. We cannot rule a people who refuse to be ruled." The realization swept through the room like a cold wind. The Federation was powerful, but it was also arrogant. They were not prepared for a fight where the enemy refused to lose. They were used to enemies who surrendered when the odds were bad. The humans changed the odds. Michael watched the reaction on his screens. The Federation fleet was not moving forward. They were holding their position. They were waiting. The fear was doing its work. The aliens were paralyzed by their own logic. They could not find a scenario where they won. Ryan walked back to the command post. He found Ji-hoon waiting. "Did it work?" Ryan asked. Ji-hoon looked at his tablet. "Their fleet is holding," he said. "They are not retreating, but they are not advancing. They are confused." "Confusion is good," Ryan said. "While they are confused, we live." The war had reached a stalemate, but it was a stalemate that favored humanity. Every day the Federation waited, they lost money. Every day they waited, the human defenses got stronger. The psychological attack had worked better than a bomb. It hit the aliens where they were weakest, their minds. The galaxy whispered about Earth. The story of the humans became a legend told in spaceports. It was a story about a small planet that stood up to giants. It was a warning to other races, do not wake the humans. The Federation had expected a quick victory. Instead, they found a nightmare. They had wanted a slave workforce. Instead, they created an enemy that would haunt them forever. Michael leaned back in his chair. He was tired, but he felt a sense of peace. He had shown the galaxy that humans were not just violent. They were smart. They understood the enemy better than the enemy understood itself. The lesson had come fast, but the learning was just beginning. The Federation had to decide, cut their losses and run, or die trying to conquer the impossible. The humans watched and waited. They were ready for either choice. The standoff in space and on the ground lasted for 3 long days. The Federation fleet floated silently above the Earth, their weapons charged but not firing. On the surface, the humans waited in their bunkers and ruined cities, their guns ready, their eyes tired. The silence was heavy. It felt like the whole universe was holding its breath. The Galactic Council had debated for hours. They looked at the numbers. They looked at the cost. They looked at the terrifying videos of the humans fighting. Finally, they made a decision. The alien flagship sent a signal to Michael. It was not a declaration of war. It was a request for a meeting. The meeting place was set on a neutral space station that sat halfway between Earth and the Moon. It was an old trading post, now empty and dusty. It was the safest place for 2 enemies to talk. Michael went alone. He wore a simple suit. He did not carry a weapon. He represented the human race. He carried the weight of billions of lives on his shoulders. On the other side of a long metal table sat the representatives of the Federation. There were 3 of them. One was a Xylov, one was a Vorg, and the third was a being made of pure light called a luminary. They looked at Michael with a mix of hate and respect. They were still angry about their defeat, but they were smart enough to know they could not win. The Xylov representative spoke first. His voice sounded like gravel rubbing together. "You have caused us much trouble," he said. "Our fleet is damaged. Our soldiers are dead. Why do you not surrender? Our logic says you should have lost." Michael looked at them calmly. "You fight because you want things," Michael said. "You fight for resources, for land, for pride. We fight because we have to. You fight for a profit. We fight for our lives. That is why you will never beat us. You are afraid to die. We are not." The Vorg representative growled. "We could still destroy your planet. We have enough ships to burn the surface. You could, Michael agreed. But look at what happened the last time you tried. We hurt you. If you try to burn us, we will find a way to take your fleets down with us. We will make it so expensive that your federation will collapse. Is this planet really worth the death of your empire? The luminary flashed brightly. The luminary was the voice of logic. We have calculated the probabilities, the being said. Continuing this war has a 99% chance of economic collapse for the Federation. There is a 0% chance of a quick victory. The logical choice is peace. Michael nodded. We want peace, he said. But we want peace on our terms. The aliens leaned forward. What are your terms? the Xylov asked. Michael took out a piece of paper. It was a simple document. He slid it across the table. First, Michael said. All Federation ships leave the solar system immediately. Second, you never come back. Third, Earth is recognized as a sovereign power. We are not a colony. We are a member of the galaxy, and we demand to be treated as equals. The Vorg laughed. Equals? You are primitives. You do not have the technology to be equals. We have the technology to defeat you, Michael said sharply. That makes us equals. If you want to stop the bleeding, you will sign this. The three representatives looked at each other. They knew Michael was right. They were trapped. If they said no, the war would start again, and the humans would only hurt them more. Their pride was wounded, but their survival was at stake. Slowly, the Xylov picked up a digital pen. He hesitated for a moment. He looked at Michael, trying to see if the human would bluff. But Michael did not blink. The Xylov signed the document. Then the Vorg signed. Finally, the Luminary signed. The Treaty of Terra was created. Michael stood up. He shook the hand of the Xylov. It was a cold, hard hand, but the touch was significant. It was the handshake of equals. Go home, Michael said. And tell the rest of the galaxy. Earth is closed. Back on Earth, the news was broadcast to every city. The ships in the sky turned around. Their engines glowed as they pointed away from the planet. One by one, they jumped into hyperspace and disappeared. The blockade was gone. The sky was clear again. In the ruins of the city, Emily lowered her rifle. She looked at the sky. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden light over the broken buildings. She saw soldiers coming out of the rubble. They were crying. They were hugging each other. They had done the impossible. They had saved the world. In the space station, David and Ray watched the Federation fleet leave from the bridge of the Archer. It is over, Ray said softly. They are actually leaving. David smiled. They are leaving because they learned a lesson. They learned that you cannot judge a book by its cover. They thought we were weak. They found out we are the strongest thing in the galaxy. Ryan and Jihoon walked into the command center. They were tired, covered in grease and dirt, but they were smiling. So, what now? Jihoon asked. Do we go back to normal? Ryan looked around the room. He looked at the screens monitoring the rebuilding of the cities. He looked at the plans for new ships that Daniel was already drawing up. There is no going back, Ryan said. We are part of the galaxy now. The Federation knows we are here. Other species will come. Some will want to trade. Some will want to fight. We have to be ready. We will need more ships, Emily said, walking in from the radio room. We need a real fleet. Not just mining ships. We need to show the galaxy that we are here to stay. And we need to keep our spirit, Michael added, entering the room via video screen from the treaty station. The Federation fears us because of what is inside us. We must never lose that. Never give up. Never back down. The group looked at each other. They knew the war was just the beginning. The humans of Earth had been quiet for a long time. Now, they had found their voice. They had looked into the darkness of space and seen monsters. They had fought those monsters and won. The lesson had come fast, but the humans had learned it well. They were not victims. They were survivors. The galaxy never expected humanity to strike back, but they did. And now, the stars would never be the same. The humans looked up at the night sky, not with fear, but with hope. They were ready for whatever came next. They were Earth. And they were free.